keep doing it regularly. And how you can evaluate the firewall is, one is like their ability to execute, if a project is given to them, and the completeness of vision that they have in providing the solution. Okay. And the best firewall, so if you go on this line, the firewall which is the farthest, okay, is the top leader, okay, in terms of functionality, in terms of, so they actually it's not a fixed criteria, but there are many more points. They will deploy it in a high load environment, low load environment, cost, stability, throughput, a lot of factors. And then they release a report. Okay, it's a paid report, it is not a free one. So these kind of reports come out regularly. So the best quadrant is the leaders quadrant, the next best quadrant is challengers, then the next best one can be on visionaries, and then these are like niche players. So all of them are NGFWs, yes, but some have more features, some are more stable. So on that criteria they actually evaluate all the product vendors. Okay, and then you can really choose. Okay, and even cost is one of the factors. Okay, uh, just give me a moment. So that was about the Gartner quadrant. It keeps on coming every I think 6 months, but yes, so regularly they would do such assessments for uh, firewalls. Then there is also a company called Forrester Wave. Okay, so they also have something like a challenger wave, a contender wave, strong performers, and then the leaders. Okay, so you see that this is a wave for leaders. Okay, this may be an old report, it's not the latest one, but I'm just showing you that these kind of reports are available so that you can evaluate your firewall technology. Okay, so it will have a detailed report again. Okay, and then you can see this is the strong performers way, where all these guys fall under, all these vendors fall under the strong performers. Then there are contenders who can really come into strong performers very soon, and then there are challengers. Okay, and and you can see out here that they use market presence. Okay, and uh, stronger current of the offering, content offering, right? So this is how Forrester evaluates. And again, as I said, there are many detailed parameters mentioned in the report. Maybe if you get a chance, you can download one old report and just go through it to have an idea. Okay. uh, and then there is one more company which is called NSS Labs. So this is also a very good way of evaluating a firewall. And they slightly, I'll just touch upon one criteria. So what they believe is, okay, so you can see this dot out here, the yellow dot out here, which is Barracuda networks. Okay, so what they say is, okay, if I purchase a Barracuda firewall, okay, and I just deploy it as a plain vanilla configuration, I will have this much sort of security, so somewhere between 70 and 80%. Okay, and then when I fine tune it, I apply proper configuration, lot of stuff like that, then I can bring it up to this level. Okay, so that becomes like 80-85% something. So in this way it evaluates each and every vendor. And you see this dotted line out here, the red dotted line, this one and this one, right? This one and this one. So the vendors which fall under these quadrants are again like recommended vendors by NSS Labs, because they have tested all the security features, all the other features in their labs, and they come up with these kind of reports called NSS lab reports. Okay, so pretty much like all the companies, before actually going for a high grade NGFW to be deployed in the network, they buy these reports, uh, and then they evaluate whether that kind of solution is good enough for their setup, and it will work as whether it will be stable for their environment and stuff like that. So all these three are some kind of reports that are available. all of them are paid, but still, I mean, you can get older versions, and sometimes you have to sign up, going onto the vendor's website and get the report for free. So these things can be possible. Okay, so these were some evaluation parameters, or you can say some reports which can help you evaluate Y checkpoint. Okay, now we will first go into, so why checkpoint, and in the first place, why an NGFW? Okay. So yesterday I asked you one question, right? So if I have an ACL in the router, right, I can, if I have to just allow some packet, drop some packet based on the source, destination, and port, why do I need an NGFW in the first place? I can do with the ACL functionality on my Cisco router or any router as such, right? Any device can have that basic functionality of ACL. Okay, so the answer is stateful inspection. Okay, so when I say stateful inspection, what does it mean? So let's say there is this server 1.x.x.1, any IP address, which is used to host services. Now the services could be web application, something like a trading application, shopping, online shopping applications, or an internal server can host an Active Directory, LDAP server or service, right? So this is a server, and when a client really wants to communicate, so let's say there is a client, any host with an IP of 2.x.x.2 who wants to connect to this server, right? So what will happen is, the first thing is it will send a SYN packet because I want to talk to that server, correct? So once it receives, the server receives the SYN packet, it will allocate some RAM, CPU resources for that communication and send a SYN back. Okay, and then what happens is the client sends an acknowledgement that I've received your SYNAC, and now the TCP session is formed, and now we can start the data transfer through this TCP tunnel. Fine, this is a normal case. Okay, that's the normal case. Now imagine, okay, so what happens is, after this TCP session, the data exchange starts, right? Sequence number one, the packet number, sequence number one goes through, which has 1 to 1500 bytes. The server receives it. He says that I've received the packet one. I'm acknowledging two. The client sends 1500 to 3000 bytes. The server says I've received two. I'm acknowledging three. And this goes on until the client says I've finished, and the server says FINAC. So this complete state, okay, right from SYN until the FINAC, right from the session when it began until the end, has to be monitored. If it is not monitored, what can happen is, let's say there is one hacker, okay, he will spoof my IP, okay, he will use the same IP as mine. This is something related to a session hijack kind of a thing, and he will send in between, I was sending 1 to 1500, 1500 to 3000, so the next packet was 3000 to 4500, but instead of that, the hacker is sending 9000 to 10500. Okay, so what will happen is, your router, which is just aware of the layer 3 and layer 4 parameters, it will not bother. It will just check where, as long as the IP address is same and the destination is same. It will not check for the sequencing. It will not check for the session, whether, after acknowledgement 3, I haven't received acknowledgement 4. It will not check that. It will just check for the source, for the destination, and the port. That's it. Okay, so this is where the router will not do the stateful inspection end to end for you, but in case of a firewall, it will. So what it will do is, the moment this client sends a SYN packet, okay, the moment this client sends a SYN packet, it will have something called as stateful or state table. Okay, there's something called a state table. So it will store in that, okay, the source is 2.2.2.2.x.x.2, destination is 1.x.x.1, and it has sent a SYN 1.x.x.1 2.2.2, it has sent synact. So it will monitor the complete session for you until the finact. And in case if something like this comes in between, it discard that packet because it knows that TCP sanity of the packet has to be checked. So if I'm doing 3000, the next packet that should come in is for 3000 to 4500 and not 9000. So if this packet passes through the firewall after this one, it will drop that packet saying that it is a out of sequence packet, out of state TCP packet. So that's the whole idea of stateful inspection. On the other hand, there are other features like, sometimes if the segment size crosses 1500 bytes, there is this defragmentation bit, okay, to be turned on. So at the other side, the packet can be rejoined, right? So all that, the firewall is really intelligent enough. The next generation, when we say NGFW, stateful inspection, the firewall is really intelligent enough to understand that this is a part of that packet and I have to rejoin at the destination. Okay, so these are just some features of the stateful inspection, but then all other, all the TCP sanity checks, everything, all how the TCP protocol works, okay, at all the layers, everything will be observed by the NGFW. And that's where the stateful inspection actually comes in. Okay. So any queries you might have, you can just raise your hand, or maybe, right now, any queries on stateful inspection? Maybe just I'll wait for 2 minutes before going to the next section. Okay, great. So, yes, Samir, I believe you have a query. Samir. Okay, I'll just move on to the next slide then. Okay, maybe we can take the question answers later. So that was the idea of stateful inspection. Now the components of checkpoint. Okay, so basically checkpoint has these four components. Out of that, the fourth component is really optional. So this one is optional. Mostly it is not deployed, but big companies do have this. So the first component is the firewall module. Okay, it is also called as gateway or enforcement module or VPN1 FW1. Okay, checkpoint calls it VPN1 FW1 in checkpoint terminology. Okay, so that's the very first component. This is where your network feeds would be connected, your LAN segment, your DMZ segment, your WAN segment, your inter VLAN routing between layer 2, VLANs and all that. Okay, so all your network feeds would be connected to this device, which is also called as gateway or enforcement module. And it acts as a single enterprise gateway, and it will process the traffic as per the policies that will be installed on it. Okay, so what should be allowed from LAN to WAN, LAN to internet, internet to DMZ, all that policies will be written on this device. Okay, so that's the very first component. The second component is management server. Okay, so the management server by default, okay, there are two functionalities by default. Okay, first is it will store the policies, okay, the ACLs. It will store the ACLs. And secondly, whatever the traffic that is processed by the firewall, it will be used to store the logs. Okay, so these are the two by default functions of a management server. Management server is also called as management server, smart center server, SMC in short, simple. And that is all. Like, these are the two main functionalities. So what actually happens is the policies are stored over here and enforced on the firewall. Okay, and that's why they are called, this is also called as enforcement module. Okay, so that's why the enforcement module. The third and the final component is the smart console. It's a small exe software which is installed on a Windows environment. Okay, it's an exe client, simple exe client that you can download from Checkpoint. You can also download it from the web UI of the firewall as well, or the web UI of the management as well, because the OS is Gaia. Okay, in both of them. So you have to just download this exe and deploy it on the Windows. Okay, just note that this software is not compatible with Linux. Okay, there is no smart console for Linux or any other OS. It is only compatible on Windows. Okay, so the next and the final component. So what actually happens is this setup, right? This one and this one, firewall as well as a management server, they would be actually installed in a data center. Okay, and every now and then you want to write a rule. You are not going to go to the data center and connect to the management server, write a rule, come back to your place, right? So what will happen is you will have this machine installed for you as a firewall admin. Okay, and on this you will install this smart console software. So this smart console software always connects to the management server. Okay, and connect and using this, so when you connect, so let's say when you open the smart console, you will be prompted for username, password, and the server IP. Okay, so you have to give the server IP as management server. So this and this would be integrated, right? So depending on your access profile, you will get access to manage the firewall policy directly. So that's the idea. Okay, so you can manage the policy right from sitting at your desktop. That's the whole setup. Okay, so this way. And the final component is, again, as I said, it's optional, but as I said, by default the logs go over here to the management server. But in case if you want to install one more component dedicated only for log server functionality, then you are able to do it. You just have to integrate it with the firewall, and the firewall will start sending the logs to this server instead of the management server. But most of the times we have seen that management server will be and can be used to take the logs. Maybe 1 in 100 customers will say that my logs are really more, the storage is really more, I have a bigger storage server, and I want to store it in a separate log server. So in that case you can install it. Okay, so these are the components of the checkpoint. Now we'll move on to the next. Sorry. So, most of the time, so you can see that these are the new, the next or the latest devices. So they come in with this infinity protection logo, and they have now termed it as quantum appliances, right? We discussed yesterday. And the management server, they have termed it as smart one. So the moment you see smart one appliance, you should know that that device is dedicated for management server functionality. Okay, so both of them can be given by checkpoint. Okay, so that's the jargon. Like you will hear this lot now because these are the latest ones. So prior to this, it was only like something called as NG, next generation gateway, or NG appliances from checkpoint. So something like this was there, but now they have come up with this quantum devices. So now they have termed this as quantum with this infinity logo out here. Correct. So we'll just quickly move on to the next slide, which are the deployment modes. Okay, so the checkpoint installation modes or the deployment modes. So as we have already seen, there are 3 components, right? So out of that, the smart console is always going to be installed on the Windows, right? And the first deployment is called a standalone or 2-tier architecture, wherein on the same hardware, okay, it's a bigger hardware, more disk, everything will be sized properly, and we install the firewall as well as the management component on the same hardware. Okay, so that particular environment is called standalone or 2-tier architecture. And definitely the console will always be there. So you can give the same IP address over it. Okay, so you can give the same IP address when you want to connect to the smart center server, because both the processes, both the softwares are running on the same device. Okay, so that's how you can connect and manage the firewall policies, things like that. Okay, the second scenario is called distributed or three-tier architecture. So in this, what happens is there is this management server, okay, smart one appliance again, and there is this smart console client also again, right? So imagine like I'm a firewall admin, I'm sitting out at Mumbai, I have a firewall at Mumbai. Okay, I don't have other team members. My company has offices in many places, but Mumbai is one of the HQ, and I have a firewall over there. I have the smart center server over there, and I have the smart GUI client also installed on my desktop, and I am a single firewall admin. Now my company has one firewall in Delhi, one firewall in Chennai, one firewall in Bangalore. So these are various metros across India, right? And I have an MPLS connectivity out there. So what will happen is I don't have firewall guys in this place. I don't have firewall team in this place as well. But since my management has reachability to these firewalls, I can manage all the firewalls sitting at the Mumbai location from this place using this management server, including the Mumbai firewall. Okay, and all these, mind you, all these, this one, power one appliance, these are different versions of checkpoint, or you can say different flavors. Okay, I mean, more or less they are not in use now. Only this, as I said, NG appliances will be available to many clients right now, but this, they have kind of stopped. Only very high end appliances come in. This also they have kind of stopped pushing to most of the clients. So everything is soft. I mean, it's checkpoint firewall. Okay, so these are UTM1. Remember the last lecture, we I told you, right, everything was blue in R77.30. So in this devices, R77.30 was supported. That was the last supported version. Okay, so the idea is I have a distributed setup with many offices, and I have to manage all the firewalls from a single location. And this is what I do. I'll install a management server at a centralized place, and using the MPLS connectivity, I need some TCP connectivity. Okay, I'll write it down for you. So the connection is something like TCP port number 18191. Okay, so if I'm able to connect to this service on the firewall from the management server, I'll be able to push the policy, write the policy, and all that stuff. Okay, so that this is a very important port, and this is how we integrate the firewall with this management server as well. Okay, so I need to just have some kind of connectivity onto that service IP address and this port, and I should be able to manage the firewall sitting at one place. So now if there is a small setup, maybe 30 40 users kind of, and this setup is really good, I don't need a dedicated management server, 40 users, the logs will be really less. So it will be something like this. Okay, I can go in for a standalone firewall, but I have a global company which has offices across uh, multiple countries or multiple cities. Then probably this type of setup is more good. Okay, then again you can decide, yeah, I mean, how and what's the cost factor. A lot of factors come in while designing a solution, but these are the two basic deployment modes: standalone and distributed. One is called two tier, the other one is called as three tier architecture. Okay, so yeah, and one small tip from my side, or in fact, this is the practice that you should be following. Since in this case, it will be a deployed or distributed scenario. So the management server should be running highest or equivalent version of the firewall. So what does that mean is, if this firewall has 77.30, and this firewall. Okay, so I'll say that, let's say I have installed R80.40 on my management. If I want to manage this firewall, I'll be able to do it. But let's say if this firewall has R81, then I will not be able to manage this firewall using this management server. I need to have R81 on this to manage this firewall. Backward compatibility is there, but you have to, so in case, let's say if there is a new patch coming in or a new version coming in, so you don't have to deploy it directly on the checkpoint first, on the firewall first. You first have to deploy it on your management server and then upgrade your firewall. Okay, always remember this. Okay. Okay, but I have heard that in R81 the upgrade is really coming in a very simple way. So you may not need to take care of this, but then it's a very good practice to follow. Okay, the management should have highest or equivalent version of the firewall that you want to manage. Okay. Uh, Pros and cons. Okay, let's discuss a bit on the pros and cons of this architecture and this architecture. Can anyone tell me? Just before, again, I mean, it's not, but let's just discuss a bit on this. Why two types of architecture? Why not only one? Anyone wants to take a, yeah, Dilip? Yes, Dilip, you can unmute yourself and answer the question, please. Or you want to ask a question? Okay, Ashish says small versus big environments. No direct access to the firewall. Vishal says no direct access to the firewall. I really did not get it. Okay, so I'll tell you. So what will happen is, okay, in this standalone environment, okay, there's one more chat. Let us see. Small business don't need a separate management server. Okay, so that is, Ashish says that a small business don't need a separate management server. Okay, that will save a bit of cost, but yes, there are some pros and cons to it apart from the cost piece. Okay, so I'll quickly tell you. So what will happen is, if I go in for a standalone deployment, and if this device really fails, okay, then what is going to happen is I have lost, just one sec. Okay, so what will happen is I have lost my uh, firewall policy. First is the connectivity. Sorry, I have lost my connectivity because my feeds are connected to the firewall, right? So I've lost the connectivity, and since my management server is also down, I have lost my policies as well. Okay, if something happens to this device, my both, I'll have a sure shot downtime. Okay, my network, there will be an outage. Simple. But in this case, what will happen is, okay, if let's say if my management goes down, okay, my firewall will still keep on running as per the last policy that was installed on it. Okay, so there is no network outage. First point. Okay, correct. And in case, let's say if my firewall fails, okay, my management server is up and running, but my firewall fails. In this case, I have the policy copy. Okay, I have the policy, which the latest running policy on this firewall. I have it stored on my management server. So I can ask the guy to put on a backup firewall quickly and install this policy and get the network up and running quickly. Okay. So that's the idea. Okay, I mean, yes, both the solutions are right, and each one will have its own pros and cons. So probably something like you are going to install a policy and the MPLS link fails, you will not be able to manage the firewall. Only the last installed policy will work. Okay, so as I said, you need access on TCP port 18191, right? So if the MPLS link fails, forget it. You are not going to, or you will not be able to change any policies. Simple. Correct. So each design, apart from the cost, yes, each design has its own pros cons, and accordingly you have to go for uh, the best suitable design. Mostly with global customers, this would be the setup. Okay, and this is yes for very small clients who don't want, this is very simple also, right? There's no integration, nothing, right? Everything on simple one box, no connectivity issues, nothing, right? So it is simple also. This is a bit more administrative overhead, but it's fine. I mean, it really works, not a problem. Correct. So we'll quickly move on to the next slide. Let's jump into the lab. Okay, so let me just see. Yeah, so what we are going to do is we will deploy a standalone lab. Okay, I'll create a new lab. Give me a minute. It's a CP R81. By the time I'm doing the lab ready, anyone has any queries? Maybe I'll just quickly take a few queries if you guys have some. Okay, so yes, Dilip, I see your hand is raised, but you're not able to speak, or are you really typing it out here in the chat? You can ask me what is the query. Okay, fine. So, okay, so add. So here, what we are going to do, it may, okay, I'll just delete this. Yeah. So what I'll do is, first is we are going to add a node, checkpoint R81 node, right? I'll take the version as R81 itself, and we will give it a 4 CPU. I'll just give us 8192. Okay, and yeah, all good. Let's see. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm also going to connect it to the cloud 0. So for the internet connectivity. Okay, so the one segment is over here. I'll connect it to, let's say I'll put it to ETH1. We'll just have two interfaces, and what I will do is I'll add one more node, and I'll put Windows 10 machine, so that this will act as my uh, smart console, the GUI client, right? I'll just see, I'll just make 4 over here, and probably should be good enough. Okay. Yeah, 4 CPU. Okay, great. So what I will do is at one of the segments, or this PC, I'll quickly connect. So Windows is E0, and we will connect to ETH0. Okay, that's fine. So for the interface of checkpoint. So what we will do is, okay, we will have an IP of, let's say 10.0.0.205 on this interface. Okay, okay, which is I mean, this network is 10.0.0, so it will go outside on the internet. Okay, and I will add one IP of 172.16.5.1 over here on ETH1. Okay, and we will have an IP address of 172.16.5.40. Okay, so 5.40 on my GUI client. Okay, I'll just change the text to GUI client. So this is one component, right? And this is my standalone firewall. Okay. So I believe you people would know how to download the ISO and put it into the PNet lab and make it QCOWS image. So I'll not show that, but yes, it will be included probably in the lab workbook. But it's very simple, right? I presume you all would be knowing this. And I will start the firewall right away first. Okay. I'll also start this Windows GUI client as well. Okay, just to save a bit of time. So I'll quickly start it and let's connect. So this is what we are doing. Okay. So this is the menu. So within 60 seconds, you have to choose install Gaia on this system. So Gaia is OS. Okay. Remember, this is the OS installation. We are not installing firewall or check or the management server. We are just installing the OS on it. Okay. So Gaia OS. So say yes. So it will continue with the installation. Okay. Just give me a minute. I'll sort out my lab over here. Okay. It will start in a minute. Yes. So this is how the installation appears. So you know what, this installation, so when you order a checkpoint appliance, okay, NG or NGX or the quantum appliance or whatever, right, this part is actually done by the checkpoint team, and the devices shipped to you. Okay, this is just because of our lab we are doing it. But when you order an appliance, a Gaia version OS will be installed, a version like any R81 or whichever version would be the latest stable version will be installed on the OS and given to you. You just have to connect to the management port using an IP address of HTTPS 192.168.1.1, and the default username password is admin. Okay, we will configure all that right now since we are going to install the Gaia OS. But in real life scenario, you just have to connect the laptop and start HTTPS. Okay, so I'll show you that point as well where we will reach that. Okay. Okay, so you just have to say, okay, we want to proceed with the installation. Tap, tap, tap. Okay. Here is the password. Okay, so we'll see admin at 123, and I'll say admin at 123 for confirming. Okay, so now it is checking the network interface cards. So before you install any checkpoint component, one interface has to be up and TCP IP ready, means you have to configure the IP address on it. So what we are going to do is we'll just say like this, and we will configure the IP address on ETH0, okay, which is 172.16.5.1, okay, as per our lab, right, on ETH0. Okay, on ETH0, we have to give 172.16.5.1/24. Okay, so that is what we are doing. We'll not need a gateway right now. Okay, so we'll just skip it. We'll add a gateway later. Okay, say okay. And so only one IP address. It did not ask us to configure the IP on the second interface. Say okay. Are you sure you want to continue? Say okay. So now it will install all the software, all the blade components, all the other web module, everything. Okay, and it will take few minutes. And again, just remember, we are still just installing Gaia OS, okay? And the the option to make it a standalone or the distributed environment will come after the Gaia installation through the web UI. Okay, so it will give you that message once this Gaia installation is complete. It'll take around 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. So let's just go on with it. And we'll not see this in all the classes. This is the first time, so we'll not see the Gaia installation every now and then. We'll directly start from the web UI, where we can make it as a firewall component or a management component or both, something like that. Okay, so we'll just see this, not a problem. So meanwhile, what I'll do is, let it go on, and I'll just connect to the Windows as well and configure all the IP address and everything.
So, okay, when and how do we configure the lab?
So you will, currently I'm showing, right? I mean,
Mhm.
the step by step you can add these devices. You will
Mhm.
always get a workbook, right? So you can follow those steps and install these firewall components, the components as it's already there, right?
So shall
So
we
you
have
just
that link to access this lab?
correct.
Okay.
Okay, just 1 second. I believe some issue at the lab side. Just give me a minute. Just be online, please. So let this installation go through. We'll just sort out. Okay, don't worry. No, Vignesh, there's no need to set more memory or vCPU or anything. I think it was, good enough. It should work. In fact, I have, got it running on the same lab and same compute, but there's no need to give more memory or vCPUs. That's bare. I mean, that's enough. Okay, so probably some other issue, and this not with the checkpoint, but I feel it's something on the PNet side. So we will sort it out. Just give me a few minutes.
Yeah, Amit, you can continue from here. Things working now.
Okay, so let this installation get complete. Yeah, and then the Gaia OS installation would be complete, right? Let's see if it is handled. So we'll set an IP of 172.30, sorry, 172.16, 5.40 as per our lab in this smart console client. Okay. Okay, so I'm putting a static IP of 172.16.5.40. Subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, and the default gateway I'm putting it as 172.16.5.1. So, and I'm just putting a DNS server because right now we will later on we'll put a policy for internet access to this client. So I'll just put the DNS server right now, and we'll just use it. Oh, so that's fine. So and remember, whenever you're going to work with the labs, just remember to disable the Windows firewall. Okay, just go to the uh, Windows firewall and just disable it, to avoid issues and extra troubleshooting in your lab actually. Okay, just turn it off whenever you're using the labs. Okay, so this is fine. This one is almost going to complete. Okay, so it is almost finished. It will ask you for a reboot. Okay, so now what it is saying is you need to go to HTTPS 172.16.5.1 to complete the first time configuration method. So when the checkpoint guys send this appliance to you, they configure the IP of 192.168.1.1 and send it to you. Okay, so this you don't have to do it everywhere, or it's just because of this lab. Okay, so I'm just rebooting it. Okay, and what we will do is we will connect once the so this completes your Gaia OS installation, and now we will connect through a web server, a web browser from this machine to do the further configuration. Okay, so we'll use Edge. So we are good to go for the first time configuration wizard now. Okay, so it says that, okay, your site is not secure. Just say go ahead, go to the web page, and it will initiate a first time configuration wizard for you. Okay, so here we have to give that same password that we configured during the installation, admin at 123. Okay, and the first time configuration wizard starts from here. Okay, so it is showing you this is the first time configuration wizard. We have an open server platform, all that, right? So continue with R81 configuration. That's the default option. Say next. So this was the one that we configured during the installation. Just say next, and it will ask you to configure one more IP. So here you can say manually, and we will configure 10.0.0.205 as per our lab again. And we will say 255.255.255.0 as the subnet mask. Say next. We'll give the host name as R81 standalone. Okay, or you can give anything. This is about the time settings. Say next. And then I have to install this. We will not be installing multi-domain server. We'll always install the first component or the first option. And here we will select whether I want to make this ISO, that image, as firewall, which is gateway, or the management, or both. Okay, so if you select management, then it will ask you whether you want to use primary or secondary or the log server, the optional component. Or if you just choose the gateway, it will ask you whether it is a single gateway or this unit is a part of the cluster. Okay, so here since we want to make this a standalone, we want to install gateway and management both, we will use this. I'll just disable this option because we don't have any blade contracts right now. So this, okay. Just say yes to this warning because I disabled that checkbox, right? And here,
Sorry to disturb you. I think you choose
yeah,
the cluster there, the previous one.
no, I did not choose the cluster.
Cluster X. Oh, okay. You untick that one. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just say next. You say go ahead. Now this, so if you remember, this is the security management administrator. Okay, so the smart console client administrator. It is not the admin at the rate 123, right? So if you want, you can use that same admin, or you can define a new one. Okay, so I'm just saying nj at, or maybe the administrator name is nj admin, and the password also I'm just putting nj admin. Okay, so this is the username and password I'll use in the smart console, the GUI client, to connect to the management server. It clearly says, right, security management administrator. Say next. And now which IP address, like even though I have the smart GUI client installed, through which IP I'm going to connect to that GUI. So you can use any IP. You can say this machine, which is 5.40, or you can put a subnet mask, a subnet with a proper subnet mask, or you can put a range of IPs, that 172.16.5.40 to 5.45, because you may not be the only guy, right? You may have a big firewall team of 4-5 people, and all those desktops should be able to connect to the management server, right? And all of them will have GUI client installed as well. So currently I'm going ahead with any IP, but in actual scenario, you have to restrict it to the limited IPs, with the IPs that have GUI client installed and who are the firewall admins, right? So next. So now it is giving you the summary. I'll just uncheck this data as well, send data to checkpoint. So this is what we have chosen, and it will finish. So now this part is actually installing the gateway as well as the management component on the ISO that we loaded. Okay, so earlier part we just saw the Gaia OS installation, and now we are making that box as standalone with by installing gateway and the management on it. Fine, it will take a few minutes, and after that it will again, I think, reboot. Yes, and then we are good to start by applying the policy and downloading the console and all that. So I'll show you once this completes. Okay. So once this installation completes, we'll go to the web UI and I'll show you from where you can download the smart console as well. So after this, the machine will go for a reboot. So I think we are nearing the end time, but are you guys okay if we spend around 15 minutes more to complete the stuff, or I can show it to you in a different, a cloned lab?
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever is convenience.
Okay.
All right, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Kofi, you can go ahead
All
and
right,
ask.
so how is it going to be done? Is Abdul going to help us do this installation, or we want to go through this ourselves?
Kofi, there was a lot of disturbance in your line. I couldn't really hear the question.
Sorry, I'm actually in my data center talking. So I'm asking if Abdul is going to be able to help us do this installation on our PC. or we have to go through this ourselves?
No, you will be provided the lab access, the details, how to access it, everything you will be provided.
Okay, and if I want it on my personal computer?
I believe, I mean, it's over the normal internet. So if there is something at your side which is going to restrict that, then probably you'll have to sort it at your end. But the lab would be accessible over the normal internet. And all the
Ah,
details to access the lab and everything would be really provided to you.
okay, you think.
Yep. I believe this will take a bit of time, so let us just go on, and I'll log into the second lab, where I have the Smart Console installed for you. So, just give me a minute. So it's a same lab with different IPs probably, but it's exactly the same lab. Okay, so just give me a few minutes where things are already installed, so we can quickly connect. So I'll just show you how the smart console to log in and how it is there, all that stuff, right? So anyways, what I'll do is I'll start taking questions from your side. Maybe uh, we'll just sort out everything and we'll try to do it fresh tomorrow. Okay, standalone, right from scratch. Don't worry, I'll get it working for you. Okay, so let me just close the lab right now. Yeah. So any questions on the the components, the deployment architecture, or anything stateful inspection that we have discussed? Maybe 5-10 minutes. We can just take the questions, and then we can just wrap up for today at least. Any questions? My friends, no questions from your side?
Yeah, I got one question.
Yes,
Like,
Puneet.
if you want to replace the firewall in the future, how do we transfer the current policy from current firewall to the future new upgraded version? Or if you
Okay.
want to upgrade the new iOS?
So for iOS, there is no need to do the policy transfer or rules. For upgrades, that part will be taken care of. But if you want to really replace from one brand to other, so what they are coming with, like all the firewall vendors have their own converter softwares. Okay, mostly it's a paid service. You have to pay and buy that software converter license. So
No,
like
sorry, not a different vendor, the same vendor. Like if we check
so
upgrade
yeah,
new model, physical
correct,
device.
correct. So that will be taken care of. So let's say how to migrate from R80.40 to R81. There would be a step procedure. and it will be taken care of, like from this version to this version, what all stuff should be done, what are the commands to be run. So there's migrate underscore export from one version to another version, and then it will tell you all the steps, and you have to just execute. So the policies will also get migrated in that as well.
So in
Okay, and
relation
yes,
to the
of course.
compatibility and like existing policies, do we need to change anything? Do we need to check?
No. It's no. The policies will still remain the same. It will be like the rules. Okay.
Yeah.
Rules would be written on the management server. It will still be there. You just have to install it on the firewall. Done. That's it. So it will still be there. It will be there. It will look exactly the similar way. So basically, when you upgrade, when you say that upgrade, the upgrade could be some release of a security related patch or a feature pack, some more features been added. So something is not supported and they say that okay, it will be supporting in R81.10. Okay, so that 81.10 comes to you as a jumbo hotfix or a patch kind of, which you have to install it, which will not change your policy or your configuration or anything. It will just add the additional features or the security patches that it is actually designed for.
So will be any downtime during that time?
Yes, of course. Yes, that's a good question. It will be a downtime, but in R81, there are processes, as I said, which will. So if you have a cluster, then there is an automated upgrade procedure available without any downtime. So it takes care of, installing the patch on the secondary firewall once, switch it over, and then the patch will be installed on the primary firewall also. So those features are you will see it in R81 soon. Okay, so it's already there, but that's the idea. And traditional way, if it is a single firewall, yes, definitely you will have a downtime, because every patch installation in checkpoint or every upgrade requires the firewall to be rebooted. Okay, so if you have a cluster, it will be done one by one, in which the downtime can be avoided. But if it is a single firewall, always it will be a downtime.
So if you reboot the firewall, what will happen to the traffic, ongoing traffic? It will decline
Stop.
all
Yeah.
traffic.
No,
Will
it
it
will
be
not be
down?
processed. It will not be processed. Simple. Nothing would be reachable by that time, because it's a central gateway, right? Everything, all connection will, the communication between your LAN segments, internet, everything will stop.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So any other questions? Any other questions from you? Or else we'll just wrap up for today. We can continue tomorrow for the standalone lab. Okay, I presume there are no questions. Okay, Puneet, you have a question again?
No, just want to say see you
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow at 8:30 sharp again.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Bye.